Hello my fellow freedom builders, and welcome back to a video that I was actually not planning to make. Today is Sunday, it is the 7th of June, and I was planning to have a day off from videos. But something has occurred to me, I have to make a video about the job numbers. The job numbers, you might ask, isn't that just about the most boring thing to listen to? And no, it shouldn't be, because the job numbers are controlling a lot about the stock market, and if you don't pay attention to the stock market, to the job numbers and the unemployment numbers, you risk getting some really big surprises. However, it seems like the job numbers are completely wrong. Well, we have known that for a while, that they were not accurate. Actually, President Donald Trump, before he became president, he was a very big critic of the job numbers and said that the numbers that Obama used, the 4-5% in unemployment, was completely bogus. But of course that changed when he became president, because the numbers kept dropping, and that was nice and convenient to have that to use in your speeches. But I guess that is how it is with all politicians. But let's dive into it, because it seems like they're not just a bit off, these numbers. They are 100% completely made up fairy tale dust. So let's have a look at it. Now, what you see here is the fairy tale. This is the S&P 500. Just the other day, you could see here, we had the S&P 500 went up with 2.45%, and they did so because there was some great job numbers coming out that really showed us that this V-shaped recovery in the economic was really truly there. The numbers we saw was this. As you can see here, non-farm payrolls, also normally mentioned short NFP. If you're not into these numbers, NFP are the king of the numbers. That is what really dictates if Fed should give some more, print some more money, or the Congress should allow some more stimulus packages. So what happened here is that in April, the United States lost just above 20 million employments or jobs. Now, it was expected that May should not be quite as bad, but still bad. So it was expected that 8 million jobs were lost here in May. But surprise, surprise, we had 2.5 million jobs added instead. So that was 10.5 million extra jobs, better than expected. Instead of losing 8 million, we gained 2.5 million. And of course, the market went completely crazy. And there was also a single politician or two that just used that. Try and listen to this here. Alright, so here we have Trump, and I know this is nice for him to have these numbers going up to the November election here. Of course he wants this to show that the economy is great. But as I'll get back to just in a second, it is not great. It is the complete opposite. So we also had Donald Trump was not the only one falling for this little stunt here. Let's have a look at Jim Cramer here. Alright, so what he's saying here is that some of the most informed investors in the world, all the hedge fund bosses and all the big retirement fund bosses, saying this is wrong. Why is the stock market going up? The economy is completely collapsing. And what he's saying here is, now you can see the stock market was actually, as we normally say, it was running in front of the economy. So the big spike we've had in the stock market simply shows now that the economy is so much better than we expected. 2.5 million gained jobs. It's still not perfect, but wow, 10 million better than we expected. There was even articles written by CNN here. Let's see if we can get rid of this one. May's unemployment numbers were shocking. Here's how everybody got it so wrong. And then there's a long article here about how the analysts got it so wrong, why they expected 8 million job losses, and why instead it was a fantastic number. Still, May numbers 13.3% in unemployment is still high. It's the highest since the Great Depression in the 30s and up through the 40s here. But still, it was lower than expected. If we just have another look here, by the way, if you remember the video I made a while back about unemployment rate, you can see here the unemployment rate 13.3%. But I also mentioned that this is what is called the U3 unemployment rate. That is a bit of a special construction because, for instance, if you just have 1 hour of work in a month and you get called by the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, doing this survey over a week every single month, and they're saying, hey, how have you been paid for doing some work the last month? And you say, yes, I walked my neighbor's dog and I got $20. Then you are officially out of the statistics and you're not unemployed. Even though you don't have a job, you just earn $20 here. Also, if you're living in an area and, for instance, you're a steel worker, that's all you can do, but all steel manufacturers are closed down. So the last 4 weeks you have not been searching for a job, then wow, whoopty, you're out of the statistics. You're no longer unemployed, even though you don't have a job and you would like to have one and you can't afford not to have a job. But since you haven't searched for a job, you're no longer unemployed. So the real number, that it is still not perfect, but the number we should actually be looking at is somewhere up here. Let's see. U6 underemployment rate is actually 21.2%. The funny thing is that is only marked as having a medium impact, whereas the U3, which is completely bogus number, is marked as having a high impact. And that is because people want to watch this number, even though it doesn't make sense at all. And this is the number the entire financial community is looking at. So what went wrong? Why do I claim that I am smarter than all of these numbers, guys? Well, I'm not. But I know where to look for numbers, and there are actually some very, very good statistic wise people out there that knows how to look for this. And you actually don't even have to look long. You don't have to be some sort of conspiracy-minded analyst, because BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, write it in their own report that the number is completely fraud and false. Let's have a look at it. First of all, and here, this is a website called Mish Talk on thestreet.com, and I'll link to that below. You should follow Mish Talk. He is doing a fantastic job analyzing these numbers, and he knows what he's talking about. First of all, he mentioned this: the headline jobs number fell by 2.5 million, and this is, as far as I remember, an article from April. Yes, this is the numbers from April, not from May, as the one we got the other day. So the unemployment rate jumped to 14.7%. All right. However, the BLS had special instructions this month, but the answers came out wrong anyway. And it writes here, as was the case in March. So this is not even the first month. This has been going on at least since February. Special instructions sent to household survey interviewers called for all unemployed persons absent from work due to the virus related business closures to be classified as unemployed or temporary layoff. So the instruction was that if they were short-term laid off, fired, but expected to get back, they should actually be registered as being unemployed. That was the intention. However, it is apparent that not all such workers were so classified. If the workers who were recorded as employed but absent from work due to other reasons, meaning that they are falling out of the U3 statistics, over and above the number absent for other reasons in a typical April, have been classified as unemployed, the overall unemployment rate would have been almost 5% higher. This is BLS itself writing this. Instead of being 14.7% in April, it should have been almost 20%. Then there are a lot of other things, and the seasonal adjustments that they do every year, and that is quite of a statistical stunt anyway. But since all of the virus has affected, they simply decided to put aside the normal way to calculate it, and they just made some assumptions and put into their models, meaning that the seasonal adjustments also went completely wrong. Then there's a little thing that never comes out, and that is we're looking at the job numbers, the U3 non-farm payrolls, and we get a number and we are happy and everything looks good or it looks bad. But what we don't often look at is that there are happening a lot of revisions. For instance, the February was revised down by 45,000, so that it was instead of plus 275,000, it was only 230,000. Now, these numbers are looking ridiculously small, and of course in positive because the virus hadn't yet affected the economy. March was revised down by almost 170,000. So instead of losing 700,000 jobs, the United States lost 870,000 jobs. So way worse than we actually expected. So these numbers they're wrongly calculated anyway, and then they're revised down as soon as we find out. But no one looks at the revisions. What do we have more here from Mish Talk? Well, he's talking about something called employment-unemployment discrepancy. Now, this is actually showing us that it is not just BLS that tells us it is wrong. We can actually see it in the number. Because what he looks at is that in April, yes, this is in April. In April, the number of employed fell by 22.36 million, meaning that there were 22 million less employed. All right, we could have the assumption here that when you're no longer employed, you're actually unemployed. Well, that's a bit strange because the number of unemployed only rose about 16 million. So there are 6.4 million people here not accounted for somehow. This is really, really strange. And this is in a workforce, a labor force of around 160 million people. So just here we have around, 3.5%, 4% that is simply missing. Then you could say, well, some of them might have retired or something. Yeah, well, he's also looking at that. You can see that the change in labor force was 6.4 million minus. Change not in labor force was plus 6,500,000. So the change in labor force was actually 139,000. So that is not really that's not the reason. We have 6.4 million people here not accounted for somehow. That is truly strange. Now, BLS know that they made the mistake in February, they made it in March, they made it in April. You could have an idea that when you know you have done something wrong 3 months in a row, and it is not just counting matches wrong, this is counting job numbers wrong. The biggest, most important numbers in the financial world that millions and millions of analysts are looking at. That is how important it is. If you just move a comma wrongly here or something wrong, just a digit wrong, it could mean billions and trillions of dollars in difference in the stock market and futures markets and commodity markets. And still, after knowing that they have made this mistake 3 months in a row, what happens in May? Well, in May, a large number of persons were classified as unemployed on temporary layoff. However, there was also a large number of workers who were classified as employed but absent from work. As was the case in March and April, So they keep making the mistake. And what they can see here is that if the numbers have been classified, they have been classified as unemployed on temporary layoff, the overall unemployment rate would have been about 3 percentage points higher than reported. So let's just forget the numbers from February and March and April that were completely wrong. But this number of 13.3% should actually, and this is BLS saying this themselves, it is not some hoax coming up. This is the congressional own office here. Unemployment rate, just by counting it right in April, would have been 16.3%. Then add the 5% that was wrong in March, then you are almost at 22%. So it is not double, but close. The unemployment rate, and here we are even talking about the U3 unemployment rate, meaning we're not even counting the people that hasn't searched for a job for 4 weeks or had walked their neighbor's dog. This is the U3. This is the low of the numbers. Should actually instead, as far as I can see, and as far as all of these clever people are reporting, should actually be 22%. And then I can't even imagine what the U6 would be, probably above 30%. But instead we get the nice fairy tale of 13.3%. And we have Trump going out saying, it is fantastic. I think he said that the American economy was a rocket ship, and he made fun of all the analysts that had said that the United States were absolutely in chaos and collapse, and it seems like they were actually right instead. That there are complete collapse and chaos, that there are almost double the number of unemployed that are actually counted. And the problem here is, because you might ask yourself, why does that matter to me? Well, it matters because when we're looking at the wrong numbers here, we are seeing a pumped up air balloon here. This is not, as far as I can judge, this is not a sign of a V-shaped recovery, because a V-shaped recovery means that the economy collapses, and that is obvious due to the to the virus from China, all of this stuff. But then this should show that the economy was actually almost better, just on the brink of being as good as it was before, when we can see, and we are going to see that in the Q2 numbers from the companies, that they will be devastating. And well, I'm not guessing as to where the market will go on Monday or in a week from now and a month from now. Anyone trying to say that they know exactly what direction the market will go, they are completely wrong, because nobody knows. And this is, of course, for a big part due to Feds printing money and buying up all debt, also corporate debts and ETFs with corporate debt. They're buying everything. So people, all the companies can just issue some really, really low rate junk bonds, and the Fed will buy them, and the companies are getting money in. Even companies that were actually better off just closing down, and that have been that for 10 years, they have just got a carte blanche now to keep running on fumes. So what will happen in the stock market, no one can say. I can see now that I think it was MSNBC and also CNN have begun to dig a bit in these numbers, and I hope that will be public, because I am pretty sure I would do that if I were Trump. This is not to critique Trump, because I think most politicians would do that. When this number comes out, of course he will use it. And he knows that the revisions will come in a month or 2 or 3 months, and no one will really look at them. Some of the revisions might just come in next year in 2021, and that is past the election. So what he's going out now saying, and that is, of course, and that is what he is an expert in, that is stealing the headlines. And he did that. And in a month, when there comes some revisions and saying, oh, by the way, it was not plus 2.5 million, it was minus 10 million or minus 5 million, no one will really care, because some new news would have taken over. And that is how crazy this system is built. I don't know how this will affect the stock market. As long as everything goes up, as you know, I'm a trend follower. I just follow the trend. But I must say that I am looking at this scenario in disbelief due to the absurdity of the way this is constructed. And again, this is not me that has calculated this. This is numbers coming out from the BLS themselves. And they are crunched by, for instance, Mish Talk and a lot of the other of the websites and blogs and YouTube channels. And these are extremely well-educated guys. I kind of look forward to a press conference in the White House where Trump or some of his employees are asked about this. And I'm looking forward to see how they will try to explain their way out of the numbers being 100% completely wrong. I'm also looking forward to see how Jim Cramer will get himself out of this and try to unshoot himself in the foot now that he is making fun of all the big fund managers and hedge fund managers that actually nailed it in the first place because they got it wrong. They are saying the companies are not hiring, and here he is making fun of the analysts saying, oh, you can see the stock market was way ahead of the economy. The economy is doing fantastically. Well, it's not according to the job numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics itself. It is bogus, it is a fairy tale, it is a 100% lie. You could try to spin your head around this and say, is this a conspiracy? Are they manufacturing numbers? I don't know. I don't know if Trump himself or some of his employees have forced someone to miscalculate something, or if this just is a simple error where people in the BLS are simply so stupid that after 3 months in a row, they cannot figure out that we might do a bit of a better job in May instead of doing the exact same mistake as in February and March and April. So I read once that the definition of insanity was keep doing the same thing but expecting a different result. And that is just about what we see here. That is the definition of insanity. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a more positive outlook on the job numbers, but right now I think they're looking bleak. That's all for now. Take care of yourself and your money out there, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.